The stars stretched endlessly beyond the viewport of the Aegis, a tapestry of black velvet dotted with distant suns, each one a silent witness to humanity's first tentative steps into the unknown. The crew moved through the ship with a quiet energy, each aware that they were not merely traveling through space, but through the threshold of discovery itself. The alien signals pulsed softly in the communication arrays, rhythmic and insistent, a language that was more felt than heard. Dr. Layla Ashford lingered near the console, tracing patterns with her fingers, as if by touch she could feel the presence on the other side. Weeks of observation had taught them caution. The structures they encountered were vast beyond comprehension, glowing with internal light that shifted in harmony with the pulses of the signal. The crew began to sense intelligence not just in the shapes, but in the current of energy that flowed through the alien formations, a consciousness that seemed to watch, to learn, and to respond. No one spoke of fear openly, yet in the quiet corners of the ship, the thought lingered. Could humanity truly be ready to meet what lay ahead? Captain Rhea Malik moved through the corridors with measured steps, her presence calm yet commanding. She knew that leadership in this moment was not about orders, but about maintaining hope, curiosity, and courage in the hearts of the crew. They were fragile, ordinary humans. Yet here they were, voyaging into a domain where the laws of understanding itself seemed to shift. Malik often paused at the observation deck, watching the alien structures pulse in complex rhythms, and felt a strange kinship, a quiet acknowledgement that despite the distance between them, both species sought meaning in existence. Communication began slowly. Initial attempts were crude, using mathematical sequences, visual patterns, and harmonic vibrations. The alien intelligence responded with subtle shifts in color and form, as if guiding humanity to perceive thought differently, to feel rather than merely analyze. Dr. Ashford found herself marveling at the patience and depth of this consciousness. Every pulse, every shift, was an invitation to understand, not with weapons, but with attention, empathy, and imagination. As the days turned into weeks, a strange calm settled over the crew. Where fear might have taken root, curiosity bloomed. The engineers began experimenting with energy conduits, try to mimic the resonance patterns, not control, but to converse. Scientists observed and documented, not to conquer, but to learn. Even the philosophers aboard offered insight, noting the alien intelligence's emphasis on harmony, balance, and connection. Concepts familiar yet profoundly alien in execution. Then, one evening, as the ship drifted through a corridor of glittering debris, the signal shifted. The pulses accelerated, forming intricate patterns that filled the observation deck with light. Crew members gasped as the structures themselves seemed to reach out, connecting threads of luminescence that traced shapes resembling constellations long known to humans, yet recombined in ways that felt impossibly new. The realization dawned slowly. This intelligence had been observing humanity for centuries, not as a threat, but as a possibility. Curious whether a species capable of both destruction and creation could rise to meet them in understanding. Captain Malik addressed the crew in hushed tones, her voice carrying through the quiet of the ship. We are here not as conquerors, not as warriors, but as humans. Our strength lies not in weapons or technology alone, but in our ability to endure, to create, and to hope. That is what we offer: our presence, our curiosity, our willingness to connect. As the signal pulsed once more, the alien structure seemed to shimmer in response, a vast acknowledgement that humanity had been heard, recognized, and accepted. It was not a greeting in words, but communion of awareness, a shared moment of understanding that transcended species, language, and perception. In that instant, the crew of the Aegis realized that being alone in the universe had never been a curse. It had been an opportunity, a chance to discover not only whether others existed, but whether humanity itself could rise to meet the unknown with courage, curiosity, and hope. And as they gazed upon the luminous forms that pulsed like a heartbeat across the void, each human understood a quiet, profound truth. They were not merely surviving. They were reaching outward, extending the fragile, extraordinary spark of life across the cosmos, carrying with them the promise that connection, understanding, and hope could endure even in the deepest darkness. The stars, it seemed, were no longer silent. The first physical manifestation of the alien presence appeared gradually, almost shyly. At first, it was only subtle fluctuations in the energy field surrounding the Aegis, like faint ripples across a calm pond. Instruments recorded spikes in electromagnetic activity, and lights within the ship flickered in sync with the pulses. Then, one evening, the observation deck was bathed in a soft, iridescent glow, forming shapes that were unmistakably deliberate, geometric forms that floated like living sculptures, shifting in flow with patterns that seemed almost musical. Dr. Ashford and her team studied the formations in awe. "It's communicating," she whispered, though no word were exchanged. "Not like us, but in its own way. It's inviting us to respond, to interact." Kira and her assistant cautiously extended a control module designed to emit harmonic pulses, mirroring the patterns emitted by the alien forms. The response was immediate. The shapes shimmered and reconfigured, flowing in a sequence that suggested recognition, even understanding. Captain Malik observed silently, aware that this moment was fragile. Any misstep could trigger fear or misinterpretation. She gathered the senior crew in the central chamber. "We're not just exploring," she said, her voice calm but resonant. "We're learning a new way to exist with intelligence that doesn't think like us. That's our challenge, and I believe we're ready." Days passed with careful experimentation. The alien presence guided them, teaching without words. Light, energy, and resonance replaced language. Understanding was built not on comprehension alone, but on intuition and empathy. Crew members learned to sense patterns, predict shifts, and respond in ways that felt less like technology and more like collaboration. Humanity's adaptability became its greatest asset, each member discovering new depths of patience, perception, and creativity. The first revelation came when the aliens demonstrated a construct that seemed alive. Not a ship, not a machine, but a flowing, self-sustaining form of energy that responded to thought and intention. Dr. Asher described it as a living bridge between consciousnesses, something entirely beyond human experience. The crew realized that the alien civilization had transcended physicality, existing as patterns of thought and energy capable of incredible creation and subtlety. But the encounter also challenged human understanding. Ethical debates erupted among the crew. How much could they intervene? Could they ask questions that might be misinterpreted? Was it right to test limits, even in pursuit of knowledge? Humans had survived through ingenuity, adaptability, and moral resilience, and now those traits were tested in a domain where the rules themselves were alien. Then came the first message that humanity could truly comprehend. A sequence of symbols forming images and concepts that were familiar, yet impossible in execution. Stars arranged into shapes representing ideas. Friendship, curiosity, courage, and endurance. A visual declaration of recognition, acknowledging humanity's unique capacity for resilience and hope. The aliens did not speak of dominance or fear. They acknowledged and respected humanity's perseverance, its ability to survive and adapt in ways that even a species far older than humans could appreciate. Captain Malik spoke to crew, her voice steady yet full of awe. "We are witnessing something extraordinary. They see us not as threats, but as equals in curiosity. Our survival, our resilience, our capacity to hope, it matters to them, and that more than any technology or weapon is what has brought us here safely." As the Aegis moved closer to the heart of the alien domain, the energy forms coalesced into shapes that hinted at habitation. Structures of light and resonance. Cities floating in the void, alive in ways humans could only begin to imagine. It was a civilization that had evolved beyond flesh and metal, yet it valued connection, observation, and understanding. Humanity had assumed they were alone, and yet here was proof that life and intelligence persisted in forms unimaginable, waiting for others capable of perceiving and respecting it. The crew began to experiment with direct interaction. They sent harmonic pulses that mirrored the alien energy's own flows. The response was immediate, almost playful, intricate, shifting patterns that seemed to dance in acknowledgement. Over weeks, the dialogue grew richer, a delicate dance of light and resonance, exploration and understanding. Humanity discovered that their unique strengths, creativity, resilience, hope, were understood and valued even across the vast gulf of difference. It became clear that the aliens had been watching Earth, not with intent to dominate, but with curiosity. They had monitored humanity's ability to survive plagues, natural disasters, wars, and the harshest environments, noting a peculiar trait. Humans not only endured, They adapted, laughed, created, and inspired. They were fragile, yet unbreakable in spirit. That very quality had drawn the attention and respect of a civilization that had long surpassed physical limitations, proving that survival and compassion were as remarkable as technological advancement. Humanity's journey was no longer about simply proving they could travel the stars. It was about proving they could meet the unknown with courage, creativity, and empathy. Every interaction with the alien intelligence reaffirmed that humans were capable of understanding, connection, and hope, traits that transcended the bounds of species and physics. And for the first time, the crew of the Aegis felt a profound sense of unity, not just among themselves, but with intelligence that existed in forms beyond imagination. Humanity had thought they were alone. Now they realized that in the vastness of the cosmos, they were accompanied, not by similarity, but by recognition. The universe was not empty, and human resilience had found resonance even in the unimaginable. The stars no longer seemed distant or indifferent. They were alive with possibility, and humanity, fragile and improbable, had begun to understand the true meaning of being heard, acknowledged, and valued across the infinite dark. The weeks that followed transformed the Aegis crew in ways no one had anticipated. Communication with the alien intelligence became more than pulses and patterns. It evolved into a shared understanding, a subtle harmony that required intuition as much as intellect. Humans discovered that the aliens perceived time differently. Their thoughts stretched and folded across decades and moments, and yet, when interacting with humans, they slowed, creating a bridge across perception. Dr. Ashford marveled at the complexity. It's as if they're teaching us not just to communicate, but to perceive differently, she said. To feel the universe as they do, to understand life not as a sequence of events, but as interwoven patterns. Kieran nodded, tracing a pattern of energy on the console that mirrored the alien response. We're learning a new kind of language, one that isn't just words or symbols, but presence itself. Captain Malik convened the crew to discuss the implications. We must be careful, she said. We are guests in civilization far older and wiser than we can imagine. Our strength is not in force, but in patience, observation, and willingness to adapt. We represent humanity. Every action we take, every choice we make, reflects what our species can be. One day, the alien forms shifted into structures that resembled living chambers, spaces that seemed to pulse with consciousness itself. Humans could step inside, and the experience was unlike any known environment. Gravity, light, and energy flowed in ways that obeyed thought and emotion rather than strict physics. The crew realized that these chambers allowed them to interact directly with alien consciousness, to perceive and share emotions, memories, and ideas in a profoundly intimate way. It was in one of these chambers that the first real dialogue occurred, not through symbols, but through resonance of thought. Dr. Ashford felt a presence fill her mind. Curiosity, patience, wonder, and something else, recognition. The aliens had observed humanity, yes, but they had also recognized something extraordinary, the ability to endure, to create, and to inspire hope where none seemed possible. You have survived, the thought pattern conveyed. You have built, destroyed, healed, and endured. You laugh, even in despair. You hope, even when the void seems endless. That is why you are seen. That is why you were called here. The revelation shook the crew. Humanity had assumed that intelligence, power, and technology were the measures of survival. Yet the aliens valued something subtler: resilience of spirit, creativity born from adversity, and the courage to continue despite impossible odds. Captain Malik felt a surge of pride, not personal but collective. Humanity had not conquered through strength, weapons, or fleets. They had endured. They had inspired. As the Aegis moved deeper into the alien domain, the structures themselves responded, reshaping into forms that conveyed stories of civilizations long past, of worlds that had risen and fallen. The crew realized that these beings were archivists of consciousness, guardians of experience, observers of life across the cosmos. And now, they were inviting humanity to join, not as subjects nor as threats, but as peers capable of dialogue, creativity, and understanding. Challenges arose as well. The crew grappled with the sheer incomprehensibility of the alien thought patterns. One misaligned pulse could cause confusion, even physical disorientation. Emotions became tools of communication, but also vulnerabilities. Humans had to learn balance. to feel, to express, but to remain grounded. Slowly, they mastered the delicate dance, discovering that adaptability and empathy, traits once considered human weaknesses, were their greatest strengths in this encounter. Finally, the aliens revealed their purpose. They had existed for millennia, studying the evolution of life and consciousness across galaxies. Many civilizations had failed, succumbing to arrogance, violence, or stagnation. But humans persisted. They adapted, they learned, they hoped. And now, the aliens wish to share knowledge, to collaborate, and perhaps to guide. Captain Malik addressed the crew. This is unprecedented. We are not here to dominate, not to claim, not to conquer. We are here to understand, to learn, and to represent humanity in its most enduring form. Let us not fail them, nor ourselves. The crew nodded, hearts steady with awe and resolve. Humanity's journey had begun with questions. Were we alone? And now the answer was clear. We were not. Yet being a company was not simply a matter of numbers or similarity. It was a test of spirit, a recognition that humanity's true power lay not in force, but in endurance, creativity, and hope. The stars outside the viewport seemed to shimmer in response, as if the cosmos itself acknowledged the union. And for the first time, humans understood that being alone had never been the measure of existence. It had been preparation, a trial to see whether the spark of human resilience could reach across the void and touch something greater. The universe had found them, and humanity had risen to meet it. The weeks turned into months, and the crew of the Aegis grew more attuned to the alien presence. They discovered that the beings existed as interwoven patterns of consciousness, capable of perceiving time and space in ways humans had never imagined. Communication had evolved beyond signals and resonance. It was now an exchange of understanding, a shared perception of thought and emotion. Each human aboard the ship felt it differently, yet all recognized the same truth. They were being trusted with something extraordinary. One day, a ripple of energy spread to the alien structures, forming shapes that resembled stars, galaxies, and worlds, all connected by luminous threads. Dr. Ashford realized that this was not mere display. It was a map of civilizations, past and present, showing how intelligence and life had arisen and faded across the cosmos. The aliens were archivists of consciousness, chroniclers of existence, and now humanity had a place among them. Captain Malik convened the crew in the central chamber. "We are no longer observers," she said. "We are participants. Every choice we make, every act of curiosity or compassion, echoes across these structures. Humanity has been recognized not for what we can destroy, but for what we can endure, create, and inspire. This is our moment, to prove that our resilience is worthy of trust." The crew began experimenting with direct collaboration. Engineers adjusted ship systems to interface with alien energy flows, creating shared environments that responded to thought and intention. Scientists conducted experiments that blended human and alien knowledge, revealing new principles of physics, biology, and energy manipulation. Philosophers documented not just discoveries, but experiences, how it felt to perceive the universe through multiple consciousnesses at once. Tensions arose as well. The humans realized that misunderstanding could have catastrophic consequences. A misaligned thought or misinterpreted pulse could disrupt the delicate balance of interaction, causing disorientation or even harm. Crew members had to practice patience, mindfulness, and empathy, learning to navigate not just space but consciousness itself. Humanity's unique traits, adaptability, creativity, hope, proved indispensable. Then came the first challenge. A distant, unstable star system threatened to collapse, sending shockwaves of energy toward a cluster of alien constructs. The Aegis crew, working with the alien intelligence, devised a solution that combined human ingenuity with alien energy manipulation. By synchronizing the ship's systems with the flowing energy of the constructs, they were able to stabilize the system, preventing catastrophic damage. For the first time, humanity had contributed in a tangible, life-saving way, proving that their resilience and creativity were more than abstract virtues. They were practical, cosmic superpowers. The aliens responded with a display of light and energy, a form of acknowledgement that transcended words. It was a celebration, a recognition that humanity had not only survived to meet them, but had actively participated in preserving life in the galaxy. Crew members felt profound connection, realizing that their species had passed a trial that no one else could have endured. In the quiet moments, humans began to reflect on their journey. They had once believed they were alone, fragile, and insignificant in the vast cosmos. Yet they had endured plagues, wars, and countless hardships. They had built, learned, and inspired. And now, in the presence of beings that had seen civilizations rise and fall, humanity's endurance, hope, and ingenuity had been acknowledged as something rare and valuable. Captain Malik looked out at the alien constructs glowing against the darkness of space. "We came seeking others," she said softly, "and we found more than life. We found understanding, recognition, and perhaps the greatest lesson, that humanity's strength lies not in power, but in spirit." The stars outside seemed to pulse in harmony with the alien forms, a cosmic rhythm that mirrored the resilience and hope of humans. The Aegis crew understood, at last, that being alone had never defined them. Their uniqueness, their capacity to endure, create, and inspire, had opened a door to the universe itself. And in that vast, luminous expanse, humanity realized that they were no longer alone. They were participants in a greater symphony, a network of consciousness and life that stretched across the cosmos. The universe had recognized them, and humanity, fragile yet unbreakable, had risen to meet it.